Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing here. So I've come to a point with my main character in Path of Exile that I'm pretty much finished. Now I got level 92 a few days ago, and I don't think I want to go for 93. When I made this character, it was, I think, the third or maybe fourth character that I made after my Wander died. See, when Open Beta came out in Path of Exile, I made what I thought was one of the coolest characters ever, and he ended up dying to Alira, blowing up another Alira. And as a result, I wanted to come up with some more interesting builds, some really cool ones, some potentially really overpowered ones, and I did, and they got nerfed, and I got bored of them, and eventually I came upon the idea to use Freeze Pulse on a very tanky character using added lightning to shock monsters using a decent amount of crit nodes. And I came up with a build similar to the one that I'm using now. At the time I was using Static Blows and Chance to Shock. And, basically I made this character because I knew it would be fairly effective in PvE, but it'd be really, really effective in PvP. Now, PvP these days is not anything to brag about in Path of Exile. It's there, it's okay, it's pretty much just for lulz, and you're gonna get some lulz if you play it every now and then, so it kind of serves its purpose. But we all know that, the guys over at Grinding Gear have pretty big plans for their PvP scene, and while this stuff may not happen soon, I'm pretty sure it'll happen eventually, and it's not like there isn't anything to do in Path of Exile. So the plan is to retire this character and play it again when PvP is really, really cool. So I just want to show you guys, how I've come to where I am with this character, the gear that I've chosen, and maybe a little bit insight on how I feel that PvP works. Because if you've seen my stream over the last, maybe a couple of days, you'd know that I haven't lost a single PvP match, and that's because some things are really, really overpowered. Now, this character, I ended up leveling. A lot of the time I was playing solo, a lot of the time I was doing my own maps, so I spent an enormous amount of currency leveling to the point where I have. But you know what? It's been a lot of fun, and I've really come to the point where I want this character to be. It really started off when I ended up getting a Terran's Shiver for like 5 exalts like a couple months back. I ended up 5-linking it, and I couldn't actually use it because I knew that with the survivability drop of not using a shield, using Terran's Shiver, which is a sizable DPS upgrade at the time, I would probably kill myself to reflect. So I put the weapon on hold and waited to get a Combs, and I ended up getting one, maybe about a week later, something like that. At the time, I believe I paid 35 exalts, which today seems a little bit low, but at the time, people weren't really selling them, so the price was pretty much up in the air, and I felt I got a pretty fair deal at the time. And when you combine Combs Heart with Terran's Shiver, the problem with Combs Heart is you get no sockets and you get crappy armor. Now I get some decent armor from other places with this character, so it's not that big of a deal. But, the main thing is that you can't really use a one-hander and a shield because you don't have enough links. You have to use a two-hander, so you can get a 6-link. And a 6-link I did. I got it in 14 fusings after I had 5-linked it in 80. So, pretty good RNG. It's the only item I've ever 6-linked out of, all the time I've played Path of Exile, but it was a pretty wonderful moment where I realized that, combining the two items, I almost had a finished character. All I needed was a few more items to cap up my resist, because it's very difficult to cap your resist if you're using Combs Heart along with a two-hander that doesn't have any kind of resistance on it. Now, that's pretty much it on the PvE scene. I used that. I got through PvE, got to 92, which is a long time invested unless you're, doing a serious group with very, very high level maps, which I was not. I was pretty much grinding like the 70s, 69s, the 71s, that kind of area, grinding it solo, because, you know what, it was a lot of fun, and in the end, that's really what it counts. Well, when I got to this stage of just, going for the PvP, I knew I would get here, so I was, assembling this item set in the meantime, and the reason I got 92, right now it's not really that important of a one, but it's for Hexmasters, curses you cast never expire. This thing's ridiculous in PvP, and combined with the fact that I'm using Dodri's Damning for an extra curse. The curses that I'm using are Temp Chains and Critical Weakness. I didn't quite level my Critical Weakness to 20, maybe it's something I'll do a later time, maybe it's something I'll get someone else to do for me, I don't know, we'll see. But the idea is that when you freeze pulse them, if you crit them, the freeze will last twice as long from temp chains, and it'll stack multiplicatively with the freeze duration talents. So, you know, people can be frozen for like 12 seconds at a time. And yeah, they cannot be frozen, but as some of you may know, if you use temp chains with the chill effect, which is also going to last twice as long, it is absolutely insane in PvP. The reason is they cast so slow, they move so slow, you have complete control over them if you're not affected by these ailments. And of course, you don't want to be cursed, so you got to use of warding for the PvPs. But all in all, the character is just really insane. Freeze Pulse is a really overpowered ability for PvP and pretty strong for PvE. You know, there's no surprise getting a little nerfed. You got the blood magic, you got the GMP. The reason GMP is very important, while in PvE you use it so it triggers the effects you know, individually and overlaps them. That's why it's so good with added lightning. Well, in PvP, because you're using critical weakness adds a crit chance per projectile. So you're doing 5 projectiles per cast, and while they have an overall crit, so my crit is like 35%, 35% of the time they'll all crit at the same time, but with critical weakness, each individual one has a 9% chance to crit. And as a result, you know, you're going to have a really high freeze time on the target, while the freeze on non-crit doesn't really play any factor in PvP because targets typically have way too much life. Critting individually per projectile is just like critting as a whole for the purpose of freezing, and that's why critical weakness is so ridiculous. I use increased critical damage right now. I was using faster casting for PvE just because, you know, it was something that increased the tooltip DPS by a lot more than anything else, but increased critical damage makes the biggest difference for PvP because critical weakness multiplies your critical multiplier, making it completely outrageous. And then you get the life leech to stay alive. This is not really that big of a deal in most cases. Then you have the cold penetration. The reason cold penetration is so insane is because I don't use elemental weakness in PvP. Targets can have 100% cold resist. They'll be brought down to 64 in that case. And as a result, they just get absolutely owned. So in PvP, right now, the reason it's not really very competitive is because it's not very balanced. Combining a skill with cold penetration and critical weakness and amplifying its ailment with temp chains makes it absolutely ridiculous. And as a result, you know, it's just kind of like whatever. But it's a lot of fun. The character has pretty much come to the point where it's, you know, it's there for its intended use. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Got my cool auras. I end up replacing Determination for Vitality because physical damage is kind of a joke when they move that slowly in PvP. And I got my Death's Harp with the Bear Traps for way more critical multiplier than normal, along with a nice little quiver. So that's about it. Krippus Fat has pretty much met the end of his journey for now. We'll have to see what comes out of you know, the grinding gear, you know, brain for PvP action in the future. But I just want to let you guys know, because I know a lot of you guys really like to see me play this character, made your own character similar to mine, and you know, kind of want to show you guys where you end up if you have the same goals that I had in mind when I made my character. So it's been quite a journey, and I wish you guys enjoyed it as much as I have. And we'll have to see what character I end up playing in the next 4-month race. And we'll see if it'll be quite as epic as this one. I'm not so sure it will, but things change. So we'll see then, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.